Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another car chat. I have my daughter in the background there, as y'all can see. So I wanted to make this video speaking on nationalism, particularly Dominican nationalism, because it is a subject that has been gaining a lot of momentum lately. But I also wanted to speak on it because I feel like a lot of people have hijacked the meaning of nationalism, and they've taken this title to mask other racist and xenophobic ideologies that they may have. So I want to start off by reading to you guys the technical definition of nationalism. So it goes as follows. Nationalism is an ideology and movement that promotes the interests of a particular nation, especially with the aim of gaining and maintaining the nation's sovereignty over its homeland. Okay, so notice no mention of race there. Okay, so in my mind, Aaliyah, sorry guys. So in my mind, when I think of nationalism, this is what I think of. I think of basically having, the interests of your nation first, being for the betterment, being for the improvements of your nation, making sure that your nation maintains its political sovereignty without having all of these outside forces like trying to get a piece of the pie and just mess up with your politics. Basically how the U.S. is doing with Latin America right now, because the U.S. is all up in everybody's business, and DR has people all up in its business too. So for me, as a nationalist, I would think that you'd be against that. Now, although I have Dominican citizenship, I do have dual citizenship, I've never considered myself really a Dominican nationalist just because I was born and raised here in the United States. So I was never really sure if I guess had the right to call myself that, because I wasn't born and raised there. Like, obviously I'm pro-Dominican, I want to see Dominicans do well, and I want to see the nation do well. But I don't know, I guess because I was born and raised here, I was never quite sure if I could call myself that. But anyway, so what I see happening is that some of these quote-unquote Dominican nationalists, their approach to Dominican nationalism is very much based on race. And as soon as I see Dominicans talking too much about race and blah blah blah, I'm like, okay, you're a fraud. This is not what nationalism is supposed to be. Now I know the US is kind of an exemption because here everything has always been so segregated. So you have white nationalists, you have black nationalists, blah blah blah. But in DR or in countries like DR, I feel like that's just kind of stupid, because you are dealing with a nation of predominantly mixed race people, a nation where generations after generations of people have been generationally just mixing. So the population is overwhelmingly mixed. Pure whites and pure black people are a minority. So I feel like for any Dominican to take a nationalist approach behind race is stupid. So anyway, so what I'm seeing is some of these quote-unquote nationalists are pushing like basically a racist agenda behind their supposed nationalism. And to me, I just find that very misleading. I find it just very stupid. Like, how can you claim that you're a nationalist? Which is basically saying that you're for all Dominicans, but then you promote race realism, you promote that the white race is superior and all this other shit, and I'm just like, okay, but then you claim that you're not against black Dominicans. Like, how does that work? Like, please explain to me, how does this work? Because that is a complete contradiction in and of itself. Okay, I mean, you might not have the same, I guess, hate for black Dominicans, and you know that you can't say that shit on camera, but if you feel that Haitians and African Americans and straight up Africans are inferior because they are genetically that way, what the hell are you saying about Dominicans that are black, that are predominant African ancestry? Like, but somehow black Dominicans aren't included in that. Okay, so like, get the fuck out of here. Like, that shit is so stupid to me. Like, I've mentioned this in a previous video where I talked about Eurocentrism and Afrocentrism and why I feel like as a Dominican you should not be for either, because it makes no damn sense, okay? And like I said, if you're going to call yourself a Dominican nationalist, then you can't stand behind this racist ideology, because that goes against what Dominicans are. We are not a white country, the same way we're not a black country, but we got a lot of black mixture in there. So again, how does that work? How do you call yourself a Dominican nationalist but promote race realism? And you basically only stand behind one aspect of our heritage. Because I hear some of these Dominicans talk so much about preserving our heritage. Like literally some of the shit these people say sounds like it came straight out of a Nazi handbook. Like that's how y'all sound, okay? Again, talking about preserving our heritage, when in reality all they're talking about is preserving the European heritage, when if you really think about it, it's not under attack, okay? Like the European aspect of our heritage ain't going nowhere. It's Dominican heritage is European heritage. Dominican heritage is African heritage. It's native Taino heritage. It's all of the above. You can't take out any piece of that to our heritage. It's too much ingrained into our culture, into who we are, into our traditions. Like, to take any of those three elements would be to dismantle Dominican culture in itself, and that's not going to happen, okay? So I'm like, y'all are creating this false narrative and trying to get the people all riled up and worried about this shit. I'm like, look, that's not happening. Now, that's not to say that there aren't Eurocentric or Afrocentric threads, I guess you could say, or those that do want to take a very one-sided approach to our heritage and to our culture. I mean, that is happening. I've told y'all before that I'm seeing like these two extreme groups forming, where it's like there's some Dominicans that are straight up only about the European aspect of a heritage and they only want to focus on that, and then there are some that do the opposite, that they only want to focus on the African part of it and claim that we're all black, which, I mean, that's not correct either. But again, as Dominicans, a predominantly mixed race group of people, how can you be for either side? How can you call yourself a nationalist but only be for whiteness or only be for blackness? Now, how does that work? Now, I was watching another YouTuber's video, and one of their subscribers specifically called me and this other Dominican female YouTuber out and said that we were Trojan horses, which I find that hilarious. And if you're watching this, you know who I'm talking about, because you're clearly lurking and watching my videos, and you claim that my channel's going downhill, which I find hilarious. But I was just like, Trojan horses, huh? So what exactly am I like trying to mask and secretly bring into the Dominican community? Like, what is it? Am I trying to bring in black people? Am I trying to bring in Asians? Like, what is it? Like, y'all crack me up with some of these ridiculous yet hilarious accusations that some of y'all make. And I love how some of these people, because this person isn't the first one that automatically resort to calling me Haitian or Viva Bella Laitiana, Extina Laitiana, whatever, which clearly the only reason they're calling me that is because I'm dark skinned. Which is another thing that I have to say, some Dominicans, y'all ain't shit for this, but some of you guys, when you see someone that goes against your own ideology, if you're dark skinned, you resort to calling them Haitian. And now this isn't in any way to be offensive to Haitians, because if I was Haitian, I would be proud of it and say it, but I'm not. And clearly y'all are saying this like it's supposed to be offensive, and you know, calling me pro-Haitian, blah blah blah, whatever. You know, it's just hilarious. Like, Dominicans like you guys are the ones that continually make us look bad, and it's sad that you guys target your own Dominican people and call the dark-skinned one Haitians, but they're not with your racist ass agenda, okay? Because in reality, that's the only reason they're calling me that. They wouldn't be calling me Extina the Haitian or whatever if I was with their anti-black bullshit. Sorry, I keep forgetting my daughter's in here. Like, they wouldn't be calling me that. If I was with their anti-Haitian, anti-African American crap, they would be applauding me. You know, they'd be, you know, agreeing with me. But because they see that I am not with that shit and that I'm open to everyone, oh, now I'm pro-Haitian and I'm Extina the Haitian and blah blah blah. I mean, then y'all just stay showing your asses. You really do. And the thing is with me, I have never positioned my channel as a pure Dominican channel. Like, y'all know I started my channel with makeup, okay? But then eventually I started speaking on Dominican subjects because, you know, I feel like people do judge us Dominicans a lot without really understanding where we're coming from and why we take the positions that we take. And so I felt like, okay, I need to defend Dominicans when it comes to these certain things, because I feel like some people just aren't understanding. But at the same time, y'all see my content isn't just Dominican stuff. I talk about everything. You know, I welcome people of all backgrounds on my channel. I mean, hell, I've even had a conversation with a freaking American white nationalist on my channel, you know? Like, I may not agree with you, but that doesn't mean I can't have a conversation with you. Like, I appreciate that, you know. I've had a Puerto Rican ask me to speak on Puerto Rican stuff. I've had a black person ask me to speak on African American stuff just recently. I had a Mexican request that I do a video on mariachi. Like, y'all see, I'm open to discussing everyone's cultures. I'm open to discussing issues that may not even be within my own community, because people will just appreciate my insight. Like, I like that, and that is what I want to continue doing. Like, you know, I can speak on other groups or people's stuff, but, you know, I'm always going to bring it back to my Dominican people, because that is what I am. That is my culture, you know. And when I see that Dominicans are being either accused unfairly or whatever, like, I'm going to speak on it, because I see what the majority of Dominicans think. I see how the majority of Dominicans feel about certain subjects, but it's always the loud, ignorant ones that people look at and think that they represent all of us when they really don't. So it's unfortunate that Dominicans have stood behind the banner of nationalism, really just to support their racism. Like, again, I feel like that's unfortunate, because then they get looked at as the face of the real nationalists. And I know that I do have a few real nationalists that watch my videos, and I always appreciate their comments. You know who you are, I've told y'all before. And they, the real nationalists, make it very clear that as a Dominican, it's not, you shouldn't be for Eurocentrism, but you can't really be for Afrocentrism either, because we're all of the above. We're not just one race over the other. And some people may see that as taking a centrist view when it comes to race or whatever. But hey, it is what it is. If you were in a very white country, then go ahead and take your white nationalist view. If you were from a purely black country, go ahead and take your purely black nationalist view. But that is not the case for us Dominicans. It's not. Some of y'all, the way you guys talk, you would swear we were a freaking white nation. We're not. We're not a white country. We never have been. We have always been from the jump a very mixed race country, because those initial Spaniards were effing everybody. Like, hello. So anyway, I just wanted to make this video because I feel like these fake nationalists need to be exposed, because y'all are frauds. In my mind, in my opinion, you guys are frauds. I don't consider you guys Dominican nationalists, okay? And again, I mean, whether I should or could consider myself one, I don't know. But at the end of the day, regardless of whether I call myself a nationalist or not, I'm for Dominican people. I'm for all Dominican people, regardless of race. But some of y'all ain't, okay? Y'all can say, oh, I have nothing against black Dominicans, whatever. Nah, you a fraud. You a fraud. It's sad that when your own people kind of look at you a certain way, because your stance is not to hate on other groups. And I mentioned this a while back, but I was like, why is it that with some Dominicans, they feel that we need to take a stance of hating another group in order to be pro-Dominican? Like, on the one hand, I understand that, you know, DR has had to defend itself against multiple groups trying to get in there and take over. And, you know, we've had to fight off the US a few times. You know, we were occupied by the Haitians and invaded by them a few times. So, you know, I get that. But at the same time, I don't think that our identity should be centered around hating other groups of people. That is where I'm like, nah, I can't stand with y'all, with you Dominicans that are like that. Like, I can't. And for me, as a Dominican American, growing up in the United States, growing up around different groups of people, I'm not going to be anti-black. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not. One, how am I going to be anti-black when I am a person of African descent myself? Like, I mean, that's not the only thing I'm a descendant of, but that is the biggest part. Like, how am I going to be anti-black? How? Especially looking the way that I do. How am I going to be anti-black? And when it comes to Haitians, I mean, I've always been kind of indifferent towards Haitians, just being honest, because I've had such limited interactions with Haitians. I've never known a Haitian where I grew up. I've seen a few Haitians in DR, like all the times that I would go. Usually in Santo Domingo, I'd see them on the streets, and but now I wouldn't really see Haitians like that. So I've always been kind of like, when it comes to them. But lately, I have felt like, okay, it's probably good to have a better understanding about them and where they're coming from, but also just our history in general, because people like to target us Dominicans and say that, oh, we hate Haitians because they're dark or whatever, because they're black, as if we don't have black people too, when it's like, okay, that's not to say some Dominicans aren't racist, because there are some Dominicans that are just straight up racist, but that kind of resentment that some Dominicans hold towards Haitians, I mean, that didn't just come out of nowhere. There is a reason behind that. And it does go back to when they occupied the entire island for those 22 years. Like, there was a lot of shit that went down during that time that was deteriorating to DR. So, you know, anyway, that's a whole different subject. But me personally, I don't have anything against Haitians. But yeah, I'm not going to sit on here and take an anti-Haitian stance just to prove my Dominicanness. And then when it comes to African Americans, y'all already know I'm never going to be anti-African American. Okay, that's dead. That's not going to happen. I grew up with these people. I grew up alongside them. I'm not going to be against them. I'm just not. Like, sorry, I'm not. Like, I know a lot of Dominicans always say that African Americans try to impose their racial ideologies onto us. And hey, I mean, I've seen it myself. I get it. But I know that that's not all of them. And in my personal experience, that hasn't been what I experienced from my African American friends. So, like I said, I'm not going to be against them. Like, I'm not. I'm sorry, I'm not. But it's just sad. Again, it's sad that when you don't take a hateful stand against other groups of people, then all of a sudden you're anti-Dominican and you're for this group and for that group. It's just like, come on. Y'all stay making us look bad. It's just annoying. It really is. But anyway, I say all that to say, stop using nationalism to mask your internalized racism and xenophobia, okay? Stop doing it. Like, I feel like you can be for Dominicans, you can be a Dominican nationalist, and not take a racist approach behind it. And when it comes to Haitians, I feel that Dominicans, or like the Dominican nation as a whole, I mean, I feel like they should have the right to, you know, follow their immigration laws and not just let any and everybody walk over all willy-nilly, because best believe you aren't allowed to just cross over that easily into Haiti, which I will touch on that in my video about Dominicans in Haiti, which I have to do next. So if Haitians aren't just letting any and everybody walk over into Haiti, then why are they allowed to just freely walk over into DR? So I don't feel like, as a Dominican, to want to, you know, have a more secure border. Like, I don't think that should automatically label you a racist. Like, I think that's a right that any country has. But for those that take a stance against Haitians purely based on race, that I do not agree with. I don't. Because we have Dominicans that are just as black as them. So are you going to look down on them too? And unfortunately, they get called Haitians too. I see that all the time as well. Certain dark-skinned Dominicans, if they say something that some other Dominicans don't agree with, they automatically get called Haitians. So anyway, okay, I ranted enough, but that is it for this video, you guys. And I'm sure I'm going to get some hate with this video. That's fine, but hey, I just got to call out the BS when I see it. And some of y'all Dominicans be on some BS. Sorry, but y'all are. Calling me a damn Trojan horse. Seriously. But it's okay. Y'all can keep calling me Haitian. Keep calling me all you want. Just keep exposing your asses, because that's all y'all are doing. Exposing yourselves. Alright, y'all. Peace out.